Like the prodigal son returning to his rightful home, David Moyes was unveiled as Everton's new manager on Saturday as the first big appointment of the club's new administration. After finally taking over the reins in mid-December, the Friedkin Group didn't wait around to part ways with Sean Dyche and clearly feel as though the smartest plan for the future of the club is to go back to the past. One could easily look at the Moyes appointment as a quick and easy decision from the new club owners to appease a fan base that has been thoroughly fed up for quite some time. Although some Everton fans would certainly begrudge Moyes for leaving 11 years ago to join Manchester United and taking Marouane Fellaini with him, many would obviously have a huge amount of respect for the record he left behind at Everton, and most notably the simple fact that very few head coaches have come since then and managed to best it. Only one manager since Moyes left the club has bettered his best ever points tally in the Premier League for Everton, when the Scottish manager took the club to 5th place in the 2007-2008 season with a final points tally of 65. Roberto Martinez bettered that in 2014 with a points tally of 72, but it's worth bearing in mind that Moyes is still responsible for 6 of the club's 10 best league campaigns in the Premier League era. Of course, we all know that Moyes was a very good manager at Everton. After all, that's why he was anointed as Sir Alex Ferguson's successor at Old Trafford. But what's really worth bearing in mind here, and what I hope to do in this video, is take a look at why the Friedkin Group have decided to bring him back to Everton, and whether he fits in with what will be their plans for the club going forward. Unlike the previous owners at Everton, who seemed to spend money first and think about the consequences later, the Friedkin Group seem like far more considered operators in the transfer window. Since the American group took over Roma in late 2020, the Serie A side have the 6th highest net spend on transfer fees, which suggests that Everton's new owners are by no means planning on splashing the cash and using a blank chequebook to push the club up the Premier League table, which is where Everton's new manager comes in. What made Moyes such a good Everton manager was his ability to get the best out of a small budget and allow the club to punch above its weight. Over the course of his 11 full seasons as Everton manager, the Merseyside club picked up a total of 629 points in the Premier League. That means that during his time at the club, Everton were more or less the 7th best team in the English top flight. That undoubtedly is impressive in its own right, and something that fans of the club could only dream of at this moment in time. But what makes it an even greater achievement is the fact that in that same time period, Everton's net spend on transfer fees stood at just €38 million, which was the 16th highest net spend in the transfer market among all English clubs in that period of time. Now, there are a few outlying factors here that I have to note. For example, Moyes took a lot of success in the transfer market in picking up free transfers such as Alan Stubbs, Louis Saha, Stephen Naismith, and many, many others, as well as the fact that I haven't included wages in these club comparisons, but that's only because I simply don't really trust any of the websites that claim to have that data so readily available today. But the point I'm really trying to hammer home here is the fact that Moyes was able to take what was a very relatively little budget Everton and get so much success out of it. And while it may not have been as abundantly clear, he also did this at West Ham. For example, while most West Ham fans, or at least the most vocal ones online, seemed quite happy to part ways with Moyes at the end of the 23-24 season, it's worth noting that the Scot departed the London club with a record of 1.34 points per Premier League game for the Hammers. Not only was that better than his predecessor, Manuel Pellegrini, and considerably higher than the man that replaced him, but it was actually the best record in the English top flight for any West Ham manager in the Premier League era. And, rather remarkably, Moyes can lay claim to West Ham's best and 4th best ever finishes in the division based on total points won. Again, like his time at Everton, Moyes also made the very best of the budget that was allocated to him at West Ham. While it's a little harder to draw straight comparisons due to him not completing full seasons in the 2017-18 and 19-20 campaigns, when we take his 4 full seasons in charge between 2020 and 2024, we can see that West Ham, under his guidance, picked up 213 points in the league, which was the 9th best record in the Premier League during that period. That may not sound incredibly impressive, but it's worth bearing in mind that in the same period of time, they had the 10th highest net spend in the transfer window among all English clubs, which meant that Moyes was, again, outperforming the budget that he'd been asked to work within. Like I noted earlier, this may not be as clear-cut as his record at Everton, but it's worth bearing in mind that most of the managers that came before him at West Ham blew through obscene amounts of money to very little success, while Julian Lopetegui spent close to €145 million on new players this season, only to see the team slump to 14th in the league table. In other words, simply matching the budget with league results is something of a miracle at West Ham, and Moyes did even better than that. We don't yet know what Everton's new owners plan to do with the club, but considering the debt that still hangs over the club and the bills to pay for the new stadium, it seems more than likely they'll look to turn the Merseyside club into a smart operator like Brentford or Brighton that scout young players for very little money while balancing sporting success with the need to sell their stars each and every season. Now, when we couple all that with the idea of Moyes' football being somewhat dour, it doesn't sound all that appealing to Everton fans. But when we then consider what they've gone through in recent memory, the idea of the Merseyside club being boring but surprisingly well run on and off the pitch may be exactly what they need at this moment in time. And when we consider Moyes' record in the Premier League, there's a very good chance that he might be the perfect man for the job.